I walked back from the grave to find my son serving dinner to guests in the ranch house I built with my own 2 hands. He called me sir and offered to take my coat. He did not recognize his own father. He thought I was just another wealthy visitor come to admire the Arizona sunset from the wraparound porch I had designed 30 years ago. What he did not know was that the weathered old man standing in his foyer was not a guest. I was a ghost worth $47 million, and I had come home to burn down everything my brother had built on the ashes of my family. Before I tell you how I made them pay, let me tell you how it began. My name is Harold. I am 68 years old. For the last 12 years, the world believed I was brain dead in a facility somewhere in Switzerland, a vegetable being kept alive by machines. They were half right. I was in a coma for 3 years after a construction accident crushed my spine under 6 tons of steel. But I woke up. I clawed my way back to consciousness in a rehabilitation center in Zurich, relearning how to walk, how to talk, how to be human again. The doctors called it a miracle. I called it unfinished business. The evening I returned to Phoenix, the desert sky was burning orange and purple. I stood at the iron gates of Mesquite Ridge Ranch, a 200-acre property I had purchased 40 years ago when it was nothing but scrubland and rattlesnakes. I had built the main house myself, laying every beam, hammering every nail. I had raised my son Marcus here, teaching him to ride horses before he could read. I had buried my wife Sarah under the old mesquite tree by the creek, promising her I would always protect our boy. I looked at the ranch now. The wooden fence I had built was replaced with wrought iron. The simple farmhouse had been expanded into a sprawling hacienda with terracotta tiles and a fountain in the courtyard. Someone had been spending money, a lot of money. I adjusted my hat. I had not cut my hair in months, and my beard was wild and gray. I wore dusty jeans and a flannel shirt I had bought at a thrift store in Tucson. I needed to look like a drifter, a nobody, a man the world had chewed up and spit out. Inside the lining of my jacket were documents worth more than this entire property. Bank statements, trust records, and the deed to the land signed in my name. I walked up the gravel driveway. My hip ached from the old injury, but I ignored it. Pain was an old friend now. The front door was open, letting the cool evening air flow through. I could hear laughter inside, the clink of glasses, the murmur of polite conversation. I stepped onto the porch and knocked on the door frame. A man appeared. He was in his early 40s, broad-shouldered, but thin, too thin. His face was gaunt, his eyes hollow with exhaustion. He wore black pants and a white dress shirt, the uniform of a server. He was carrying a tray of empty champagne flutes. "Good evening, sir," he said, his voice flat and practiced. "Welcome to Mesquite Ridge. Are you here for the Harrington party?" I stared at him. I stared at the shape of his jaw, the set of his shoulders, the way he held himself. I knew this man. I had taught him to throw a baseball in the backyard. I had walked him down the aisle at his wedding. I had held him when his mother died. Marcus, my son. He did not recognize me. He looked through me like I was furniture. I opened my mouth to say his name, but the words would not come. My throat closed up. I just stood there, frozen, looking at my boy who had become a servant in his own home. "Sir," he said, a flicker of concern crossing his face. "Are you all right? Can I get you some water?" I forced myself to speak. I rasped out words through a throat thick with grief. "I am looking for Victor Caldwell. I was told he lives here." Marcus flinched at the name. His eyes darted toward the interior of the house, and I saw it. Fear. Pure, naked fear. "Mr. Caldwell is hosting the party," he said carefully. "I can let him know you are here. May I have your name? Tell him it is an old friend. Tell him it is someone from before." Marcus nodded and disappeared into the house. I waited on the porch, gripping the wooden railing I had carved myself 3 decades ago. My knuckles were white. Victor. My younger brother. The man I had trusted to manage my affairs when I was in the coma. The man who had power of attorney. The man who had promised at our mother's deathbed that he would always look after Marcus if anything happened to me. The man who had clearly done something unspeakable. The door swung open wider. A figure emerged from the golden light of the foyer. He was 63 now, but he looked 50. His face was smooth, his hair dyed an unconvincing brown. He wore a cream linen suit that probably cost more than most people's monthly mortgage. A gold watch glittered on his wrist. Victor smiled when he saw me. It was not a smile of recognition. It was the smile of a predator sizing up potential prey. "I am afraid I do not recall scheduling any meetings tonight," he said, his voice smooth as oil. "This is a private event. Perhaps you should come back during business hours." I looked at him. I let him see my face clearly in the porch light. His smile faltered. Then it died completely. His face went pale, then red, then pale again. His mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. "Hello, Victor," I said. "I hear you have been taking good care of my ranch." He recovered faster than I expected. The shock was replaced by a careful blankness, then by a smile that did not reach his eyes. "Harold," he breathed. "My God. Harold, is that really you?" He stepped forward as if to embrace me. I did not move. I did not open my arms. He stopped, his hands falling awkwardly to his sides. "We thought you were dead," he said, shaking his head in apparent wonder. "The facility in Switzerland called 3 years ago. They said you had passed. We had a funeral, Harold. We buried an empty casket." I looked at him. I said nothing. I wanted to see him squirm. "This is incredible," he continued, his voice rising with false enthusiasm. "A miracle. Wait until everyone hears. Marcus," he called over his shoulder. "Marcus, come here. You need to see this." Marcus appeared in the doorway, still holding his serving tray. His expression was confused, wary. Victor put his arm around my shoulder, a gesture of brotherly affection that made my skin crawl. "Marcus," Victor said, his voice dripping with manufactured emotion. "This man standing here, do you know who this is?" Marcus looked at me. He studied my face. I saw the moment it clicked. His eyes went wide. The tray slipped from his fingers and shattered on the tile floor. "Dad?" His voice cracked like a teenager's. "Dad, is that really you?" He stumbled forward. He grabbed me, pulled me into an embrace so tight I could feel his bones. He was shaking. He was crying. "They told me you were dead," he sobbed into my shoulder. "They told me you died alone in that hospital. I wanted to come see you, but they said you would not want me to remember you that way. They said it was better if I stayed here and worked." I held my son. I felt his ribs through his thin shirt. I smelled the exhaustion on him, the desperation. I looked over his shoulder at Victor. My brother was watching us with an expression I could not read. His wife Sandra had appeared beside him, a brittle blonde woman in a designer dress. She was staring at me like I was a rattlesnake that had slithered onto her patio. "What have you done to my son, Victor?" I asked quietly. Victor spread his hands in a gesture of innocence. "What have I done? I saved him, Harold. When you died, and the vultures came circling, when the tax collectors came with their assessments and their penalties, I was the one who stepped up. I was the one who kept this family together." "What tax collectors? What penalties?" Sandra spoke up. Her voice was sharp, defensive. "Your estate was a disaster, Harold. Decades of mismanagement, hidden liabilities. The IRS came after everything, and I mean everything. The house, the land, even Marcus's inheritance. If Victor had not liquidated assets and restructured the debt, your son would be homeless." I looked at Marcus. He had pulled back from the embrace. He was not looking at me. He was looking at the floor, shame burning on his face. "Is that true, Marcus?" He nodded slowly. "I owed over $2 million in back taxes on the inheritance. Uncle Victor paid it. He saved the ranch. He saved me from prison. I work for them now. I work to pay back what they spent." I felt the rage building in my chest. A familiar sensation, hot and bright. But I controlled it. I had waited 12 years. I could wait a little longer. "I see," I said, making my voice small, defeated. "I did not know. I am sorry, Marcus. I did not mean to leave you with such a burden." Victor relaxed. I saw his shoulders drop, saw the tension leave his jaw. He thought he had won. He thought the broken old man in front of him was no threat. "It is in the past, Harold," he said magnanimously. "What matters now is that you are alive. We should celebrate. Come inside, have a drink. We can discuss the future in the morning. I do not want to interrupt your party, I said. I can find a motel in town. Nonsense. Victor waved his hand. Sandra, have Maria prepare the guest cottage. My brother will stay here tonight. He looked at me, and I saw the calculation in his eyes. Tomorrow we can sort everything out. There are papers to sign, legal matters to address. After all, you were declared dead. Your estate was settled. Things are complicated now. I understand, I said meekly. I shuffled inside, playing the part of the confused, broken old man. I leaned heavily on my cane, though I did not need it nearly as much as I pretended. Marcus led me toward the back of the house. As we walked, I saw the changes they had made. The simple furnishings Sarah and I had chosen were gone, replaced with expensive minimalist pieces that belonged in a museum, not a ranch house. The walls were covered with abstract art, the photographs of our family, of Marcus as a baby, of Sarah in her wedding dress. They were all gone, erased. Marcus opened a door to a small cottage behind the main house. It had been the foreman's quarters when we ran cattle. Now it was a bare room with a single bed and a bathroom. I am sorry, Dad, Marcus whispered. It is all I can offer. They control everything. Where is Emily? I asked. Where is your wife? Marcus's face crumpled. She left 3 years ago. She took Tyler and went back to Ohio. Aunt Sandra said she was a gold digger, that she was only interested in the inheritance money. When the money disappeared, so did she. Tyler, my grandson. The boy I had only met once when he was a toddler, before the accident. They took him from you? Marcus shook his head. I let them go. I thought I was protecting them. I thought if they were far away from this mess, they would be safe. But now Sandra says Emily is going to sue for child support, that she is going to expose the tax problems, that I could go to prison if I do not keep working. I sat down on the narrow bed. I looked at my son, my strong, proud son, reduced to this trembling shadow. Do you believe them? I asked. Do you believe everything they told you? I do not know what to believe anymore. I reached out and took his hand. Believe this, I said. I am your father. I am alive, and I did not come back to watch you suffer. He looked at me with something I had not seen in his eyes in a long time. Hope. Now go, I said, before they get suspicious. We will talk tomorrow. He left. I sat alone in the dark cottage, listening to the sounds of the party in the main house. Laughter and music drifted across the yard. Victor and Sandra were celebrating their success, enjoying the fruits of their theft. I pulled out my phone. I dialed a number I had memorized in Zurich. Hartley, I said when the line connected. I am in position. They bought the whole thing. What did you find? The voice on the other end was sharp, professional. Margaret Hartley, the forensic accountant who had spent the last 2 years unraveling my brother's schemes. It is worse than we thought. They have my son working as a servant. They have convinced him he owes them millions. They have driven away his wife and child. What about the property? They have remodeled it, extensively. They are living like royalty on my land. Perfect, Margaret said. Every dollar they spent is documented. Every improvement they made is evidence of conversion and fraud. I have the IRS records, Harold. There was no tax debt. Your estate was clean. Your trusts were self-executing and fully compliant. They invented the entire thing. I closed my eyes. I had suspected as much, but hearing it confirmed still hit like a punch to the gut. What about Tyler? We found him. He is in Columbus with his mother. He is 9 years old now. He has been diagnosed with severe dyslexia. Emily has been working 2 jobs to afford the specialized tutoring he needs. She never sued for child support. She never threatened to expose anything. That was another lie. Get me everything, I said. Bank records, communications, the forged documents. I want a complete picture by morning. Already done. I am sending a courier tonight. You will have everything by 6 a.m. And the authorities? Standing by. FBI, IRS, Criminal Division, and the Arizona Attorney General. They are very interested in your brother's activities. Apparently, this is not the first time he has done something like this. I ended the call. I sat in the darkness, processing everything. My brother had stolen my identity, faked my death, and enslaved my son. He had destroyed Marcus's marriage, separated him from his child, and turned him into a broken shell of a man. He had done all of this while living in the house I built, sleeping under the roof I raised, walking on the land I had loved for 40 years. I pulled out the small device I had palmed in my pocket before Victor's embrace, a military-grade listening device, no bigger than a button. I had stuck it under the collar of his linen jacket when he pretended to welcome me home. I activated the receiver. Victor's voice crackled through the speaker, loud and clear. "Is he gone?" Sandra was asking. "For now. He is in the cottage. He looks half dead already. Probably will not last the year." "What if he starts asking questions?" Victor laughed. "What questions? The man has been in a coma for 12 years. He does not know what year it is. We will have him sign the papers tomorrow, get his thumbprint on the final transfer documents, and then we will have everything legally. And if he refuses, then we remind him that his son has a $2 million debt that can be called in at any time. We remind him that Marcus is one phone call away from federal prison. The old man will cooperate. They always do when their children are at stake." Sandra's voice was cruel. "We should have just let him die in Switzerland. It would have been cleaner." "Where is the fun in that?" Victor replied. "I want him to see what I have built. I want him to know that everything he worked for belongs to me now. He always thought he was the golden child, the success story. Look at him now, a beggar on his own land." They laughed together, a sound like breaking glass. I turned off the receiver. I had heard enough. I did not sleep that night. I sat by the window, watching the lights in the main house flicker off, one by one. I watched the caterers pack up and drive away. I watched the Arizona stars wheel overhead, the same stars I had watched with Sarah on our wedding night. At 5 a.m., a motorcycle pulled up to the cottage. A woman in leather dismounted and handed me a thick manila envelope. She did not speak. She did not need to. I recognized her as one of Margaret's people. I opened the envelope. Inside were documents that told the complete story of my brother's betrayal. The first page was a wire transfer log. Every month for 12 years, my trust had automatically deposited $15,000 into an account designated for Marcus's care. Victor had intercepted every single transfer. He had created a shadow account in Marcus's name, then immediately moved the funds to his own offshore holdings. Total amount stolen, $2.16 million. The second page was a forged letter from the IRS, demanding payment of back taxes that did not exist. Victor had created fake liens, fake penalties, fake court orders. He had built a paper prison around my son. The third page was a psychiatric evaluation ordered by Sandra 3 years ago. She had attempted to have Marcus declared mentally incompetent, presumably to gain full control of any remaining assets. The psychiatrist had refused to sign off. A handwritten note in the margin read, "Subject shows signs of prolonged psychological abuse and coercive control. Recommend immediate intervention." The fourth page was a copy of a check written to a private investigator. Victor had been tracking Emily and Tyler for years, monitoring their movements, documenting their struggles. He had been watching them suffer and done nothing. I closed the envelope. At 7 a.m., Marcus knocked on my door. He brought me coffee and toast on a tray, his hands still shaking. "Come inside," I said. "Close the door." He obeyed. He stood before me like a soldier, waiting for orders. "Sit down, Marcus." He sat on the edge of the bed, his shoulders hunched. "I need to tell you something," I said, "and I need you to listen without interrupting. Can you do that?" He nodded. "Everything they told you is a lie." His head snapped up. "There is no tax debt. There never was. Your inheritance was clean. Your trusts have been paying out every month for 12 years, but Victor intercepted every penny. He stole over $2 million from you, Marcus. He forged government documents to make you believe you owed money. He kept you working as a slave to pay back a debt that he invented." Marcus stared at me. His mouth moved, but no sound came out. "Emily did not sue you. She did not threaten to expose anything. She left because Sandra told her you had chosen the family over her. She has been raising Tyler alone, working double shifts to pay for his special education. She never stopped loving you. She thought you had abandoned her. Tears were streaming down Marcus's face now. I am not a broken old man, Marcus. I am not here to beg for scraps. I came back with evidence that will put Victor and Sandra in prison for the rest of their lives. But I need your help to finish this. What do you need me to do? His voice was barely a whisper. I need you to be strong for one more day. I need you to pretend nothing has changed. Can you do that? He wiped his face. He sat up straighter. For the first time in 12 years, I saw a spark of the boy I had raised. I can do it. Good. Now go back to the house. Act normal. Tonight, we end this. The day passed slowly. I watched from the cottage window as Victor and Sandra lounged by the pool they had installed on my property. I watched Marcus serve them drinks and clean up after them. Every moment was agony, but I held my position. A hunter does not pounce until the prey is perfectly positioned. At 6 p.m., a caravan of vehicles pulled up to the ranch. Black SUVs with tinted windows, a sedan bearing government plates. Men and women in suits emerged, carrying briefcases and badges. Victor came out of the house, confused, alarmed. What is the meaning of this? He demanded. This is private property. A woman stepped forward. She was in her 50s, silver-haired, with eyes like chips of ice. She held up a badge. Mr. Victor Caldwell, I am Special Agent Morrison with the FBI. We have a warrant for your arrest on charges of wire fraud, identity theft, elder abuse, and theft from a federally protected trust. Victor's face went white. This is insane. I have done nothing wrong. I want to call my lawyer. You can call him from the field office, Agent Morrison said calmly. She nodded to the agents behind her. They moved forward with handcuffs. Sandra came running out of the house, screaming, You cannot do this. We are respected members of this community. Do you know who we are? We know exactly who you are, Mrs. Caldwell, Morrison replied. You are under arrest for conspiracy to commit fraud, accessory to theft, and witness tampering. You have the right to remain silent. I stepped out of the cottage. I walked slowly across the yard, letting them see me. Victor stared at me, his face contorting with rage and disbelief. You did this, he spat. You set us up. No, Victor. You set yourself up 12 years ago when you decided to steal from your own family. I walked closer until I was standing directly in front of him. The agents had his hands cuffed behind his back. You called me a beggar, I said quietly. You said I was half dead, that I would not last the year. You laughed about making my son crawl. I reached into my pocket. I pulled out a folded piece of paper. It was the forged IRS notice he had created, the document that had imprisoned Marcus for over a decade. I held it up so he could see it. Then I tore it in half. I tore the halves into quarters. I let the pieces fall to the ground at his feet. That debt does not exist, I said. It never did. And now you are going to prison for creating it. Victor lunged at me. The agents grabbed him, held him back. He was screaming now, spittle flying from his lips. I built this. I made this ranch profitable. You were nothing but a construction worker with delusions of grandeur. I deserved this. I earned it. I looked at him with something close to pity. You earned nothing, Victor. You stole. You lied. You destroyed your own nephew's life for money you did not need. And now you are going to spend the rest of your years in a cell, thinking about what you threw away. I turned my back on him. I walked toward Marcus, who was standing on the porch, watching everything unfold. Sandra was still screaming as they loaded her into the SUV. Something about her rights, her reputation, her innocence. Nobody was listening. I put my arm around my son's shoulders. It is over, I said. He was shaking, but he was not crying anymore. He was standing straighter than I had seen him stand in years. What happens now? He asked. Now we bring your family home. Emily and Tyler are in Ohio. There is a plane waiting at the airport to bring them here tonight. His breath caught. You found them? I never lost them. I have been watching over all of you, even when I could not be here. Marcus turned to look at the ranch house. The house I had built. The house that had been twisted into a prison. I do not want to live here anymore, he said. Too many ghosts. Then we will sell it. Or burn it down. Your choice. The land will always be here. We can build something new. He looked at me then, really looked at me for the first time since I had returned. I thought I lost you, Dad. I thought I lost everything. I pulled him into an embrace. I held him tight. I came back, I said. That is all that matters now. We stood there as the sun set over the desert, painting the sky in shades of fire and gold. We stood there as the FBI vehicles drove away, carrying my brother and his wife toward justice. We stood there as the stars came out, one by one, reclaiming the Arizona sky. 3 hours later, a car pulled up to the ranch. A woman stepped out, holding the hand of a small boy with dark hair and curious eyes. Marcus made a sound like a wounded animal. He ran toward them. He fell to his knees in the gravel and wrapped his arms around both of them. "I am sorry," he kept saying. "I am so sorry. I did not know. I thought I was protecting you." Emily was crying. Tyler was confused but happy, clinging to the father he barely remembered. I watched them from the porch. I watched my family come back together. Margaret Hartley appeared beside me. She had arrived with the FBI convoy but had stayed in the background until now. "The accounts are unfrozen," she said quietly. "All $47 million, plus damages and recovery. Your son will never want for anything again." I nodded. "That is good, but that is not why I came back." "I know," she said. "That is why I took the case." She handed me one last document. It was a trust agreement, freshly drafted. "This establishes a fund for Tyler's education," she explained. "The best specialists in the country for his dyslexia. Full coverage until he is 25. And a separate account for Emily, to thank her for keeping him safe all these years." I signed the document. My hand was steady. "There is one more thing," I said. "Victor had people watching them. A private investigator, already handled. He is cooperating with the FBI in exchange for immunity. He is going to testify about every instruction Victor gave him." "Good." I walked down the steps. I walked toward my family. Tyler looked up at me with wide eyes. "You are my grandpa," he said. "The one who was asleep for a long time." I knelt down to his level. My knees ached, but I did not care. "That is right. I was asleep, but I woke up, and I am not going anywhere ever again." He studied my face with the intensity only a child can muster. Then he nodded, apparently satisfied. "Mom says you built this house," he said. "She says you can build anything." I looked at the ranch house behind me, the house that held so many memories, so much pain. "I can," I said. "And maybe someday you and I can build something together. Would you like that?" He grinned, a gap-toothed, 9-year-old grin that reminded me of Marcus at that age. "Yeah," he said. "I would like that a lot." I stood up. I took his hand in one of mine and Marcus's hand in the other. Emily stood beside her husband, leaning into him like she would never let go again. We walked together into the house. The house that had been a prison was now just a building. The ghosts were gone. 6 months later, I stood on the same porch, watching the construction crews tear down the old hacienda. Victor and Sandra's additions fell under the wrecking ball, crumbling into dust. Marcus stood beside me, Tyler on his shoulders. "Are you sure about this?" Marcus asked. I nodded. "I am sure. The bones of the original house are still good. We will rebuild on the foundation your mother and I laid. Simpler, cleaner, honest." Emily came out with lemonade. She handed me a glass and kissed my cheek. "Thank you," she said, "for everything." I watched my family. I watched the desert bloom under the spring rains. I watched the walls go up, day by day, a new house rising from the ruins of the old. Victor got 32 years. Sandra got 25. They will die in prison, forgotten, their stolen empire distributed to the people they hurt. Tyler's reading improved every month. The specialist said he would catch up to grade level within a year. He started calling me Grandpa Hal, and the sound of it healed something in me I had not known was broken. Marcus started laughing again. Working with his hands again, he helped with the construction, learning the same skills I had taught him decades ago. And me? I am 68 years old. I have more money than I could spend in 10 lifetimes. But the only thing I care about is sitting on this porch every evening, watching the sun set with my family beside me. I learned something in that Swiss hospital, something I carry with me every day. The measure of a man is not what he builds, it is not what he earns, it is not the empire he leaves behind. The measure of a man is whether his children know they are loved, whether they are safe, whether they can look at the sky without fear. For 12 years, my son lived in fear. My grandson grew up without knowing his grandfather. My family was scattered to the winds by greed and cruelty. But we found our way back. We always do. If you are out there right now, if someone has taken everything from you, if you feel like you are scrubbing floors in a house that should have been yours, hold on. Justice does not always come fast, but it comes, and when it does, it is sweeter than any revenge you could imagine. Hold on. The dawn is coming. If you enjoyed watching Justice Served, hit that like button and subscribe for more stories. And remember, the measure of a man is not what he takes, it is what he gives.